Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Steve Hines, founder and CEO of EnergyCAP, and we appreciate your participation on this webinar today. We have record-setting sign up for this webinar. I don't think we're threatening Netflix at this point, but obviously it's a topic of interest to a lot of people. So thank you for registering for this. And I think it's going to be really a very informative and valuable webinar for you. A few notes first. The first 100 to log in and stay logged in through the webinar will receive a $5 gift card via email directly from Starbucks. Those will go out in the next day or two, so keep your eyes open for that. We'll also be sending out a follow-up email and a link to the recording. In case you had to miss any of it, you'll have that. And I'll give you a little bit of a preview that EnergyCAP will be in the news tomorrow morning in the Wall Street Journal. We'll also be sending out an email and a link to a press release and a personal message from me to all of our valued EnergyCAP customers tomorrow. So please keep an eye open for that. All right, I will go ahead and get started. Again, welcome. Appreciate you joining us today for Designing for Resiliency. And our very special guest and one of our favorite clients is Lori Herrick Borden. Lori is the Energy Management Administrator for the city of Virginia Beach. A few fun facts about Lori and Virginia Beach. First of all, Virginia Beach is the largest city in Virginia, something that probably a lot of people don't realize. Lori might not look like it from her photo, but she was in the military police, active duty in the U.S. Army, also in the Army National Guard, and had deployed to the Middle East. So she is tougher than she looks. She also drives a muscle car, a Challenger Hellcat 2021. What's very striking about Lori and what we appreciate very much about her is that she is a real leader in energy management in Virginia. She has a unique ability to speak into other municipalities. She's a wise and trusted voice in Virginia. She's a convener. She's a networker. She has reached out to many other municipalities in Virginia to promote energy management and resiliency. So she's one of these relatively scarce individuals that we see out there in government service who is reaching out beyond the boundaries and the borders of her responsibilities in the city and really promoting the principles and the importance and value of energy management on a very wide stage, and she's had a big impact on a lot of organizations in Virginia. So we appreciate and value her very much for that, a real energy champion. So thank you for that, Laurie, and let me hand it over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Steve. I have never had an introduction like that before. Like, that was amazing. And I really appreciate that. And I also really appreciate the opportunity to participate today. After implementing an energy software program that can also do utility payments, we get a lot of questions. A lot of times people want us to jump on a call or do a demo. So this is our way of reaching the larger population and showing them, hey, there is an easier way to do things. So this is good for us too. Thank you. So a little bit about the city of Virginia Beach. I had to put this amazing photo in there. If you haven't been here lately, got to put a plug in for everyone to come visit us. We have a focus in our office of municipal operations. So we are looking at our city facilities, more than 350 of those, large, including a very large, beautiful convention center. Get that other plug in there. Some amazing recreational centers, parks, and then of course we have a lot of pump stations. We have our own municipal public utility. And then we're always tracking parking lot lighting and street lighting. So all of this stuff is the things that we use EnergyCAP for. There are only two of us, and we work in the Department of Public Works. So we stay pretty busy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about um, like a little bit more of our background, and that way you can kind of understand um, how we have the system we have today. So I'm going to start with the background, and this was a pretty big project for us. Originally, we had a decentralized bill review model, and what does that mean? That means the bills would come out to each individual department, then they would review it, and they would often enter it on a spreadsheet or put it in the Energy Star portfolio, all of the stuff by hand. Type up a payment voucher, put it on top, and then route it, and everybody had to sign it. Then they sent it over to our Department of Finance, and then they would key it into the financial system. So basically, the same bills were getting keyed at least 3 times. So it was very long, and then lots of opportunities for bills to sit on people's desks. And I have to admit, there were some late fees we saw when we got those bills and started to work with them. And that was one of the initiatives that we came up with, was to eliminate those late fees. Another thing, we did know to the penny how much we were paying in utility bills, but we didn't know how much energy we were using, and that became a big issue for us when we wanted to do some energy reduction funds, because we didn't know where to put it, right? And we saw energy costs were rising. We went from 20 million to 24 million during some of those energy spikes, and we stay around 19 to 24 to this day. It kind of goes back and forth depending on what fuel's doing. We also track our fuel and water using EnergyCAP as well. So we understood it was huge, right? It was a big deal for the city, and we hadn't had anybody full time looking at this, and so we wanted to do a good job. Um, we knew we wanted energy software, and I won't lie, the only thing we really wanted was the energy information. But that wasn't going to be how this would go, and the reason why is because every time we would talk to somebody outside of our little group, our little department, they would say, well, what's in it for me, right? Well, why would I want to help you? This is going to be extra work for our team. Like there was all these initial pushbacks, but when they saw what the capabilities were of this software, that got their wheel spinning, right? And the Department of Finance said, hey, we might not be able to have staff have to key 1,200 utility bills a month. We could just add an interface to our financial system, and then you guys can just batch the bills over to us, right? But that also meant with that type of model that we would have to add strict financial controls to the project, which we hadn't had in mind in the beginning. Department of Information Technology was also involved. They wanted to provide the project management, mostly because I think they were afraid we were going to screw up implementation, but that's okay. That was a great person to have on our team. But we realized pretty quickly that they did not want to be responsible for the administration of the software. Like they didn't even want to do password resets. And we were like, what are we going to do now, right? So we actually went to the Catalyst training, Mark Podolinsky and myself, and we learned about the software, went to some training sessions, and we figured out pretty quickly we can do this, right? I might have a degree in marketing, and he might have a degree in sports management, but we can we can figure this out. So we worked through that, and then we got to the Department of Public Works, and we really needed them to be our guinea pig because they had a lot of the bills. And they realized, though, that if we were going to bring in the bills electronically, that would free up some of their staff time as well, right? So they were on board because they could see what was in it for them, and so that got pretty exciting when we had all of the support. But I won't lie, we had to have one more piece to this puzzle, and that was a deputy city manager, Dave Hansen, because, and Steve can attest to this, whenever we would hit a roadblock, we had to have somebody that would like cross through those silos and force everyone to come up with a solution, right? Otherwise, the project would have been really challenged at various times. So you need that. I highly recommend that you have somebody like that that can go in between the departments and force people into a room to quote unquote work it out, right? I want to also show you another part of this that we did. A city auditor was involved, and we went to him at first to make sure he blessed it, and because we never had electronic bills in the city before. We've been paying electronically with ACH, but this other part was new. And so thankfully we had that city auditor also as a supporter. So that helped as well. All right, so our model. Now I know everybody here today would love for me to go through this diagram, right? Every little line, every little box looks really complicated, and it is, right? So I'm not going to go through it, but I want to go through some of the big requirements that we had that we developed during all these conversations, and it kind of led to this system that we have today. So we wanted to be able to bring in those electronic bills, and we could only get them from electric and natural gas, but we wanted to also have an easy way to key in paper bills into the system, right? Some really easy tabbing, and it wouldn't be too painful for those staff that had to do the water bills and some of those other bills that we couldn't get. The bills would have to go through nightly automation because we wanted, even the bill had a credit on it, we still wanted it in the system. We still wanted to know that it had arrived and what it looked like. Then we also wanted to build that interface. So we had an Oracle-based financial system, and we had to have that interface written. Um, we also wanted it to store our general ledger code. So every time we batched a bill, we also included the codes that it should get charged to in the financial system. Before we could export, we also wanted to pre-validate the bills to make sure, because we're dealing with big dollars here. I mean, our electric account alone is 14 million. And before it would get over to the financial system, we wanted a red flag to say, hey, this one's missing a code, or this one is not, is a bad bill. There's something going on with it. You need to go back and fix it and then reprocess it. And we also wanted to batch those payments out of EnergyCAP and also provide a report. The auditor would love this, that would show who approved that bill and what time they did it. And they're really making sure it's not us administrators. We should not be approving those bills because it's cash, right? And we had various rules in our system to make sure that we're following the authority that has been dictated by our comptroller's office. So we had bill entry staff, and then we had those approvers with that authority. And then we also had these rules for building managers, and they had to be user specific for us because of the way that these requirements were written by the comptroller's office, and thankfully EnergyCAP was able to do that. We locked down the ability to delete or change bills, right? That's all part of that controls. And then we wanted those reports on unusual account and bill issues, anything that was suspicious we needed to look at, and we wanted the departments to be able to get a copy as well. And then on top of all of that, we wanted a report that we could run for every department and put on our intranet, and also run it citywide to share with our city leadership. So we did all of that, right? We went to EnergyCAP, we wrote that down, we adopted that, and EnergyCAP, including Steve and Blaine, all of them looked over what we needed, and they said, we can do that, right? The other thing that we got from EnergyCAP was the ability to be hosted. Our information technology folks had a lot on their plate, still do, and we wanted the option to have EnergyCAP be able to host our information. And I can tell you, let me tell you about this. They went live with their online version, I think around 2014. You guys can correct me, but ever since then, it's been amazing because we used to have desktop installs and we would have to wait in queue. And now those desktop installs and all of that have gone away. They can just go to their browser. And the other thing I want to mention with being hosted is we have not had any downtime that I can remember. So whatever you guys are doing, knock on wood, Steve, everything has been working really well. All right, so this is our city auditor support. He was super excited, Lyndon Ramirez. One of the things I want to show you here too is, it's kind of a sidebar, but I wanted to point out to you that when we posted those reports to the intranet for the first time or the second time, city staff went through them and found a bill they did not recognize for a facility that we did not know about. And we went out to this location, and you don't see City of Virginia Beach anywhere on this building. And that is because we moved out 20 years ago. we have one department that pays the electric bill and the other part that handles the lease, and a third department that was the department that was actually in the facility. And the three had not talked specifically about this, and the bill was just continuing to be paid. So that's one of the other reasons why our city auditor to this day loves this software and is super excited about us looking at the utility bills from this perspective.
Lori, that's a great story. I can't tell you how many times we've heard that from clients in large distributed organizations who thought that they were taking a good look at their utility bills, but really it was just a perfunctory, stamp of approval. And once they had to make every utility bill fit into a slot in a building or in a budget code, they found those very same things. And they're embarrassing to someone when you find them, but it kind of feels good that you're not paying for somebody else's electric bill.
Yeah, we didn't expect this to be big news. We certainly wasn't expecting this to end up in our local newspaper, but it helped us to get some of the money back. I guess they didn't like being in the newspaper either. And so we were able to recoup some of that money. So it really ended up being a win-win. And now we do an annual review of our utility bills. We post them on the internet and we require every department to respond that yes, these are all meters and locations that need to be paid going forward. Now, I don't know if for those folks who have talked or have been working with your finance departments on some sort of a model to do energy management or utility payment software. This was for us one of the looking for the right words here. Apparently I need a little bit more coffee. This was one of those accolades that really confirmed that we were doing the right thing. So the Government Finance Officers Association actually gave the City of Virginia Beach an award for doing this program. And that's when we knew, like, wow, we've really done something innovative here. And I don't know, to us, this seemed like a really complicated setup. I don't know, Steve, was this complicated for you guys? Like, it was for us.
Well, you point out rightly so that there are a lot of moving parts, particularly with any large government organization. But your flow chart, that's right on. You start with flow charting it. You have to understand all the processes, all the approvals, and so on. But then the nice thing is, once you understand those processes, those can largely be automated through nighttime automation or automated emails that get sent to an approving official with an attached batch report. So once you get over that implementation piece, the gears just grind away very smoothly without a whole lot of intervention. So yes, it is sometimes a heavy lift initially, but the rewards are great for years and years thereafter.
Yeah, I've talked to other localities, and they were like just doing um, keying into their EnergyCAP software, or they were doing the bills, but they weren't batching them over to finance. So they were doing some of the data in, as automatedly, but not all the way through the system and all the way to the ACH point. And a lot of them um, are looking at ours now, going, I think we're going to change our model. So I'm so thankful that we did this design with everyone's input early on, and then we kept the design, and it's just working. It's working really well. All right, so I have to talk about this day, May 31st, 2019. So as many of you know, we had that tragedy that struck our city, and we had a shooter in one of our facilities. What you might not have known, though, is that this is a very large operations building for us. Public Works, Public Utilities, Information Technology, Department of Planning. It's big, and not all of our bills come in electronically. So some of them are paper bills that had come in that had not been entered into EnergyCAP by the staff in this building. So we had water bills, sewer bills, the street light bill, which is almost $500,000. All of that stuff was left in that building, and we could not access it for months. And I won't lie, it was really tough mentally to focus on utility payments and energy management. And it took us a while, but becoming operational again, that meant starting to get those bills paid, getting back to trying to get the city business back in order. So I want to talk about one of those things that EnergyCAP has that actually helped us to do that. The EnergyCAP missing bill report was a huge help for us. We had a list of missing bills. We were able to either go to the vendor's portal or contact the vendor and see if they would send us copies. And everyone was really amazing with us, very supportive during all this, very helpful. I also want to point out here too, I'm not aware of any financial system that you can go to and you can run an intuitive report that says, hey, it's the 15th of the month and you have not received this bill yet, right? But EnergyCAP has this, and it's been really helpful for us during this recovery. But I want to point out, that, of course, that was unexpected, right? But we can expect things to happen to our facilities, right? It could be natural or man-made, fire, floods, earthquakes. The list is huge, right? All the things that can happen. And so we were really lucky with having the system that we have. Another thing I want to talk about today is COVID, right? We literally went home on a Friday and it was business as usual on a Monday. That complicated diagram that I showed you a few slides back, it still worked even if we were working from home. And this is actually a picture of me working. You can see a little bit of my puppy back in the left corner there. And this is my home computer. So it's nice to know that when things happen, you don't always get, that organization's computer to go with you, right? You can log in from any computer and get to your bills. Now, I won't lie to you guys and say, hey, we had this all planned out, right? We knew that this was going to be a resilient system for us. But the truth is, we didn't foresee that tragedy. We didn't have any idea that a pandemic would really happen in our lifetime, and we didn't recognize the full benefit of having an online version of EnergyCAP. But it just kind of all came together, and now I consider this the model program for some of our other operations and software programs. This is what we should look at, this model for other things that we're doing in our city. Another thing I want to remind everyone of as well is resiliency. I know I've seen resiliency described and defined different ways over the years, and depending on what people are talking about, what that looks like. But another part of being an energy manager, doing energy conservation, is that you are helping with resiliency, right? When our buildings are about 40% of the energy that's used here in the United States, it's really important that we're managing these buildings as best as we can. And we do have parts of our country that are having energy shortages, and they are having blackouts. And so everything that we're doing, all this work, is good for our grid's resiliency as well. So I just want to make sure I point that out. It's all good, right? It's a win-win. Going forward, we're always looking to expand our program, and we want to start looking at other vendors, other commodities that can be added to EnergyCAP. I know we talked about the things that we're doing now. We have electric, we have broke out our street lighting, we have diesel fuel, gasoline, wastewater. You see that list there on the right side. That's everything that we have in our system right now. But we know we can add more. We have designed this amazing front end that can work from anywhere, and we need to think of what else is coming in, either electronically or paper, that should be audited and tracked using the software. And then the other thing that I feel the city should also look at is, for all those paper bills that we have coming in, figuring out a way to get those scanned using EnergyCAP's bill capture. So that's an opportunity for us. Right now, we do have skeletal staff in our facilities that are keying some of those paper bills, but I think there's going to be a better way that we can do those as well. All right, that's it. That's all the information I wanted to share today, but I think there are some questions that we have. Steve, if you want to.
Yes. Well,
chime
thank
in.
you so much. That was just a great presentation. Let me just point out a few things. You really, epitomize what we're a new concept that we're starting to talk about with EnergyCAP, which is EnergyCAP as an energy ERP. Now, most large organizations have an ERP to do accounting and budgeting and other functions like that. The vision for EnergyCAP is to be an energy ERP that handles all things energy for a large enterprise. And as you were going through this, Laurie, you know, it struck me how you started talking about accounting and you ended up talking about energy management and energy conservation. And that's just the way we look at EnergyCAP Energy ERP as an enterprise software platform that has two pillars of value for an organization. One is on the accounting side, because an organization gets hundreds or thousands of utility bills. You need to get those promptly. You need to audit them. You need to make sure that they're for facilities that you really should be paying utility bills for, have them approved and flow to the payment process in a timely manner with the proper GL coding and budget coding and all of that. And the second pillar is the energy management functionality, which means Energy Star Portfolio Manager interface and sustainability reporting, carbon reporting. We see with the new administration, there's certainly going to be a lot more emphasis on carbon and climate change. And we also see that younger generations are basically not putting up with some of the pushback they see from older generations. They're looking at this planet as something they are inheriting, and they want it to be in good shape for their lifetimes and for future generations. So there's a lot more focus on sustainability and carbon and those kinds of things. So we look at an energy ERP as having these two foundational pillars of value stream, and you have addressed both of those in your job and the city of Virginia Beach and in how you do government. So you know, kudos to you and for the city for being sensitive in both of those areas and really being leaders in both of those areas.
Oh, thank you so much.
So
Well,
let me
and
move on to.
I mentioned like this win-win thing, but really when I was going through the slides and looking at all these, I was like win, 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 win. Like it's not just, it might be more than two pillars, Steve. There's a
Yeah,
lot there.
there's a lot there, yes. So let me go to the first question. What are some of the ways to fund an energy management system when little or no direct funding is available? And how did you fund EnergyCAP originally? This was 10 plus years ago.
So at the time we had the Department of Energy ARA funds, the American Recovery Act funds, and that helped us. But I do have some recommendations for those folks that are concerned about budget impacts. One of the things we did was have a no-cost budget energy bill review, a utility bill audit,
Mm-hmm.
and they came in. You keep about 25 to 30% of what they found, and then you get the rest. And then it's fixed going forward too, so you have that forward-looking savings. But the other thing you have to think about is how many man hours have we saved when you also include the electronic invoicing, those EDI files coming into the system, or the interface over to the financial system, and now the financial folks aren't keying them either. And then you have the automatic Energy Star integration, and that used to be hand keyed for us as well. So you could look at it from the staffing opportunities as well.
Well, you just made one good point about the utility bill audit that you did that returned some funds to the city. And someone had submitted another question and it said, we know we need an energy management system, but we also need a full-scale audit of our 20,000 electric accounts. Any thoughts on the timing of the audit with regards to the purchase of the software? And from what you were saying, Laurie, it would seem to make sense. If an organization is going to have all these accounts audited, if before they get into that, they enter into an agreement with the powers that be in their organization to say, let's do the audit, but promise me one thing. We're going to take a portion of the cost recovery from the audit, and we're going to invest that in software so that we're not going to need audits in the future, because we're going to keep on top of these accounts going forward. Seems to me that would be a fair kind of partnership with the approving authorities, so you get not just the benefits of the audit, but the benefits of the platform into the future. And you also mentioned about the ARA funding. This was Obama era recession stimulus funds, and we see the huge amount of stimulus funds flowing into the economy right now. And in fact, I've seen reports that some state governments and city governments are going to have unexpected surpluses thanks to some of this funding. So I don't know what all the rules are going to be as far as what those funds can be spent for, as far as infrastructure and so on goes. But again, it might be a good opportunity for administrators to look at ways that some funds can be carved out to put a system in place that's going to bring dividends, and as you were mentioning, in labor savings and improving processes for a decade into the future. Let's go to question number 2. Did you consider entering into an energy savings performance-based contract when planning your program?
So our energy program has that in it. In fact, we're getting ready to do our second award for a performance contract. Our office has been around since 2010, so this will be our second one. And I think that's one of the main, that's an exciting tool to have in your toolbox when you have the ability to do these performance contracts. So thankfully, the city has allowed us to do this kind of. We don't do the financing, third-party financing. We're using our own capital improvement funds.
Oh.
But having that guarantee and then going in and entering as a project in EnergyCAP and then using that to help verify that those savings is another exciting part of doing this.
So you're doing cost avoidance and EnergyCAP. Probably your contractor is doing the primary savings calculations and then using EnergyCAP kind of as a sanity check.
Well, so if some of these are 15-year, 20-year contracts, but you don't have to keep measurement and verification for that long, right? You decide if you want to turn it off if you see, hey, we're in the third year, we're not seeing any issues. But then you can continue to watch and provide information on that measurement and verification of that project using the software. So if city leadership has questions, you can provide them a report.
I know some government organizations have had problems or they've had to get over the hurdle of multi-year performance-based contracts. And once they were able to kind of solve that problem, this was something that the federal government had an issue with years ago. But once they were able to reform some of their contracting regulations, then performance-based contracting became really popular and very, very successful. Let's move on to the next question.
Excited.
Sorry.
Go ahead, you're good.
How does EnergyCAP help you detect energy usage that is significantly higher than in previous months?
So there's I don't know, I can think of 3 ways. You can probably think of 10. You can group your buildings like libraries, and then you can look at your libraries to see which one is the one that has the most energy usage. You can run the reports and look at the reports. I can't think. We call ours the Cleveland report, but we can run that on the department, and we see an issue, we can delve into the building and even down to the meter level. So we have a lot of bells and whistles on this type of question.
And I'll also mention, we recently added another report to EnergyCAP called Report 13, and we're currently in the middle of a sprint where we're putting the same technology into the EnergyCAP built-in audits. The way this works is we wanted to address the issue of false positives in audits and in other kinds of comparison reports. You, of course, don't want a false positive. You'd like to know where you have an energy usage spike compared to previous months, previous years, but you don't want it to be a false indication of a problem, because you can spend a lot of time chasing down false positives, and after a while you just get tired of it, and then pretty soon no one's looking at anything. So that the challenge was, historically, software auditing systems are very arbitrary. You create an audit that says, if my use per day is more than 20% higher than the use per day of the same month last year, or the average of the last 3 months, flag it. So it's very arbitrary, and some accounts are more weather sensitive than others, some are more seasonal than others, some have more natural variation than others. So we created a process that uses a very sophisticated quadratic equation using a rolling 24-month window of time. The quadratic regression is use versus average temperature, so it takes weather into account, and then it looks at the standard deviation, the statistical standard deviation of every bill versus the model created by the regression, the quadratic, and determines if it's a far statistical outlier or not. And by using the statistical outlier approach, that means an account where the usage is very, very predictable, it's very tight, that a relatively small variance will give you an outlier, and an account that naturally has a lot of variation, it takes a lot more of a difference to become an outlier, and it's also using a rolling 24-month window, so it's kind of automatically adjusting itself to give you just true positives. So that's available today in EnergyCAP in what we call Report 13 for use, cost, and demand, and it also will be built in as an automated audit here very soon in an upcoming build of EnergyCAP. So, we're trying to make it even easier for you to answer this question: find significantly higher energy usage that is not due to differences in weather or other kind of naturally occurring variances.
Well,
Okay, next question.
well, one thing I do want to
Go
mention
ahead.
on that one too is mine is way less complicated to explain, hopefully, because
Mhm.
once I hear quadratic equations, my brain kind of shuts off.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
but I want to tell you about this time we were having issues with our utility company, and then we were getting all the stuck peak demands, right? And like the one time we found a stuck peak demand, we got a credit for $122,000.
Hmm.
And we were like, oh, we got to find these things.
Yeah,
And so we were able to work with your staff to identify the report, and we ran it across our buildings, and we end up finding 5 more and getting these credits. So there's just so many parts of the bill too, not just energy. I mean, because that's that's only one
yeah,
component, that's just a
right.
general term, but there's so many different parts of these utility bills that you can find errors in and save money.
Right, exactly. All sorts of opportunities for savings that aren't just energy reduction. Yeah, good point. Thank you. How are you reporting successes in process and energy improvements? Are you also using a portfolio manager integration to communicate any of these successes?
So we keep our successes within the municipality. So we do an annual energy award program and talk about our usage and how that's going. We do an annual report to City Council and give them the good news, bad news. And a lot of times it's not the usage is the issue, it's the cost. Like no matter how many kilowatts that you save, if the cost of the utility goes up, then that you still have to report it. The So we're doing that. We're letting folks know. We're not super vocal, but we do like our annual events and let folks know how we're doing, and how we have goals. So we report out on our goals as well. And then we do use EnergyCAP to automatically populate the Energy Star portfolio manager.
Mhm.
And so we're tracking our facilities and benchmarking those as well. But I haven't really done much other than seek the certification on our facilities when it qualified.
Okay. Um, Another question came in online. It said, please address cybersecurity concerns. Now, of course, for all of us that use any kind of technology, cybersecurity is obviously a big concern. And you mentioned that originally you hosted the EnergyCAP database on premises, and then you moved it to our hosting a number of years ago because that was much, much simpler from an IT standpoint, and you have access to upgrades immediately. You don't need an IT project to install a database upgrade and new desktop software. So there's a lot of advantages there. But of course, any system is in theory subject to cyber attack. So what are we doing here to safeguard that? A secure, highly redundant commercial data center where we rent space for our owned equipment in our own rack. So that's one line of defense. And we also have all of the latest security monitoring and hardware and software. We recently were awarded FedRAMP certification by the federal government, which is a really high bar for cybersecurity. Without FedRAMP approval, you can't provide hosted software to federal agencies. So we were awarded that. If you go to the FedRAMP marketplace, you'll see EnergyCAP is really the only software of its kind to have the FedRAMP security certification. And currently we're working right now for SOC 2 Type 2. And in the future, we'll probably move up to the next level of FedRAMP certification. So we put a lot of effort into cybersecurity and take that very, very seriously.
Well, thank you. That's good. That's awesome.
Can you go to the next question? Do we have any more questions? Can grown-up people be taught to focus on energy leaks? Well, there's a good one for you, Laurie.
So the answer is yes, thankfully. We have energy champions. We do a little online training program and we get them certified as an energy champion in the city. We post our reports. We have 90 different reports and we post them into our BeachNet, Virginia Beach. So we have to do something jazzy for our intranet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have all that information out there. But I also noticed that the folks that are using EnergyCAP, the bill entry people, the bill approvers, and then the billing managers, those folks get in there and they get excited about the tools that we have. And without being asked, like we trained a bunch of bill entry people, and 2 weeks later they said, "Well, I think I see a water leak." And lo and behold, they were right. Like they're really excited about water leaks for some reason. And then of course, if we see a bad performing building, we know that there's issues out there, we will go and look at those as our team as well. But yes, the answer is yes.
Well, it's great to hear that. It really is a cultural thing. If the culture of the organization is one of sustainability and resiliency and concern about the environment, that becomes a common theme that people adopt in their daily lives. So it's very important that senior leadership and really just all the culture of an organization talks about conservation and sustainability, and people get the message and they want to be part of that. People want to be part of something that has values that are deep and long lasting. So
I agree.
sounds like
Yeah.
you're doing all the right things.
They get really excited when for the awards. I'll have people that'll show up and give them flowers and pictures and the
Huh.
family, and they get really dressed up. We even did it during COVID, and we were able to record it. Everything was read by the city manager with social distancing in mind, and then we put their pictures up instead, and then we put it on YouTube, and they were able to actually send the link out to their family. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we're on to something. It's pretty
Yeah, that's
exciting.
great. Yeah, a great feel-good moment. Well, Laurie, thank you very much. It's great talking to you as always, and you have a really good and impactful story to tell. And again, thanks for your leadership in Virginia and encouraging your peers and many other organizations to follow your lead. And everyone who's joined us today, thank you very much for participating. Again, if you were in the first 100, you'll be getting your Starbucks $5 gift card emailed to you. You'll be getting a link to this recording. And again, take a look at your email tomorrow, because you'll be getting an announcement from me and EnergyCAP and a link to an article in the Wall Street Journal with an announcement that we have to make tomorrow that I think will be exciting. I know it's exciting to us. Hopefully it'll be exciting to you. Thank you very much for attending, and have a nice rest of your day. Stay well. Bye.
Thank you.